Hello everyone, welcome to the show. As a child, I grew up hearing bedtime stories from my mom, and even when I got older and stopped sleeping in my childhood bed, I still kept on listening to those stories because it made me feel safe. Well, tonight, I'm going to make you feel safe, too, because I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story about a quiet house on Oak Street. Good evening. Close your eyes and let me tell you a story. It's a story not of grand adventures, but of the quiet, winding paths we walk as the sun sets on our lives. John, a retired civil engineer of 75, lived in a house that was once a home, but had become a museum of a life he once had. Every piece of furniture, every framed photograph on the mantelpiece, whispered the name of his late wife, Mary. For 50 years, their laughter and their children's footsteps had filled these rooms. But now, it was just him and the silence. A silence so profound, it felt like a presence. His two adult children lived in different states, busy with their own families and careers. They called every Sunday, their voices a familiar comfort, but the calls felt like postcards from a distant land. "Dad, are you eating enough?" they'd ask. "Are you getting out?" John would always say yes, but the truth was, he was a lonely man in a big, quiet house. He ate canned soup from a bowl on the sofa, and the only getting out he did was to the mailbox. One afternoon, his granddaughter, Emily, a college student, called, "Grandpa, my roommate is a nightmare. Do you think I could move in with you for the semester, just until I find a new place?" John's heart swelled. Of course, pumpkin. The more the merrier. Emily arrived a week later, with 2 suitcases and a guitar case. Suddenly, the house on Oak Street was alive with the sounds of a new generation. The silence was gone, replaced by the faint hum of a laptop, the constant chime of text notifications, and the energetic rhythm of pop music drifting down the hallway. John, a man of routine and early bedtimes, found himself bewildered. Emily would wake up just as he was having his lunch. She'd grab a frozen pizza or some takeout, while his own lovingly prepared pot roast sat waiting. They were living in the same house, but in 2 separate worlds. The loneliness, he realized, was not the absence of people, but the lack of connection. One evening, Emily saw him watching television alone. "Grandpa," she said, her voice laced with concern, "don't you have friends? Why don't you join a club or something?" Her words, though innocent, stung. He didn't have the heart to tell her that his old friends were either gone or too frail to go out. The life he had known was gone. He felt like a ghost haunting his own house. The next morning, driven by Emily's words, John decided to leave the silence behind. He walked down to the local senior community center. There, in a hall buzzing with card games and chatter, a woman with a kind smile caught his eye. Her name was Susan. She was 68, a retired librarian who, like him, had recently lost her spouse. They bonded instantly. He spoke of the blueprints he used to draw, and she of the stories she once guarded on her library shelves. They discovered a mutual love for gardening and a shared dream of one day traveling to see the ancient ruins of Italy. They were 2 lonely souls who had stumbled upon a mirror of their own hearts. Their connection wasn't a sudden, fiery romance. It was a slow, gentle warmth, like sunlight on a winter morning. A year later, sitting on a park bench in the garden, John took her hand. "Susan," he said, his voice a little shaky, "I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want us to live together." Susan's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, John, that's all I've ever wanted. The rest of my life. With you." Not long after, they moved in together, a decision that caused quite a stir in both of their families. John's son, an attorney, was the first to call. "Dad, what are you thinking? What will people say? And what about the house? What about Mom's inheritance? You're not being fair to her memory." Susan's daughter voiced similar concerns, worried about a legal nightmare and the optics of her mother moving on so quickly. Their children presented them with a difficult choice: abandon their love to appease their children or fight for their right to be together. What would you do? John and Susan chose love. However, as they stood before their children, ready to defend their relationship, they were met with stubborn silence. Their children refused to listen, hanging up on them, and blocking their calls. With a heavy heart, John and Susan realized that they couldn't force their children to accept their love. All they could do was live their lives to the fullest, proving that happiness could be found even in the twilight years. Years went by. The house on Oak Street echoed with the sound of Susan and John's laughter. They hosted parties, inviting friends from the community center and their grandchildren when they came to visit. Even Emily stayed on, choosing to finish her studies close to her grandparents. The children, though, remained distant, missing out on the joy that filled the house. John and Susan didn't let this dampen their spirits. Instead, they threw themselves into their shared passions. They created a beautiful garden, a testament to their love and companionship. The children eventually began to see what they were missing. They started calling more often, their voices filled with curiosity about the life they'd been ignoring. But John and Susan didn't hold a grudge. They welcomed their children back into their lives, sharing their happiness and the story of their enduring love. Finally, their family was whole again, bound together by the quiet strength of a love that had weathered the storms of life and emerged even stronger. In the end, it was the children who realized that true love doesn't fade with age. It deepens and enriches life, making the sunset years the most beautiful part of the journey. And so, the house on Oak Street remained a sanctuary of love and acceptance, a beacon that guided its residents and visitors alike towards the warmth of human connection. Now, I ask you, what lessons can we learn from this story? And remember, every story carries a deeper meaning. So what does the tale of John and Susan reveal about life, love, and family? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might resonate with someone else who's also listening to this story. This story touches on themes of love, loss, and companionship, which are universal human experiences. It reminds us that as we age, our needs and priorities change, and it's essential to adapt and cherish the connections we make along the way. Additionally, the story highlights the importance of communication and understanding within families. The initial resistance from the children reflects a common struggle many families face when confronted with unconventional choices. It serves as a reminder to approach such situations with empathy and respect for differing perspectives. Furthermore, the story emphasizes the power of love to heal and unite. Despite the challenges and societal pressures, John and Susan's love for each other drives their decisions and ultimately brings their family back together. It showcases how love can be a guiding force, shaping our choices and bringing people closer together. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the story of John and Susan. If you enjoyed this tale and want to support our storytelling, please hit the like button and subscribe. By doing so, you'll not only help us continue sharing these stories, but you'll also be part of a community that values creativity and meaningful narratives. Once again, thank you for listening and for allowing these characters to touch your hearts. Until next time, may your days be filled with love, understanding, and the warmth of human connection. Goodbye.